In verses 19 and 20, Shri Krishna shares brief insights into the one who's reached the highest. They've climbed and climbed and climbed. Now there's no more climbing. And Prince Arjuna, who wants to feel this, in verse 21, he asks, how can I know if I have reached the highest? It's almost like in chapter 2, he wants to know, tell me signs of someone who's content, someone who's content. Now he's personalizing this. Tell me how I can know if my pursuit to peace is complete. And so in verse 22 and the forthcoming verses, Shri Krishna begins to describe the guna atita. Guna atita, the one who's not filled with laziness, aggressiveness, or even quietness, but the one who is transcended, the one who is silent. Chanting Om is to cultivate quietude, but beyond Om is silence. The third verse we are highlighting in chapter 14 is verse 25. 4:17-25. This is part of the section on gunatita. Mana pamana yostulyaha tulyo mitrari pakshayoho sarvarambha parityagi gunatita sa uchate. Joy. Uchate. I'm sharing with you gunatitaha, signs, lakshas of one who is transcended. From creation to creator, they are now resuming consciousness. First quarter, tulyaha, they are equal, like efforts for equality, equality, in mana and apamana. Mana means compliments, apamana means criticism. Does that describe you? Are you balanced when people honor you and dishonor you? I'm so fascinated when people describe another person's body like that person is so beautiful. You're looking gorgeous today. And how moved people are by that. It fascinates me. Firstly, because no one's ever told me that. Secondly, even if someone did tell me that, I don't care. This is such a small facet of who I am, the clothes I wear, the hair I have, and so on. Practically, this is already practical, but even more practical, a way to cultivate this balance is for one to just reflect on volume. How many compliments have you received in your life? Millions. How much criticism have you received in your life? Millions. When the next one comes in, divide it by 1,000,000, and what does that equal? 0. It cultivates balance. That's in regards to the relative, me sharing a compliment or a criticism, but that relative has come from a relationship. So that's shared in the second quarter. Again, the word tulya, equal, even, balanced, etc., with mitra and ari. Mitra and ari, we have explored both of these in chapter 6. Verse 9, when I took us through the 9 types of relationships, ari was in the good, ugly relationships, and mitra was in the good relationships. To be even with both of them. a practical reference on how to be balanced with friends and foes is that everyone is struggling with their own challenges. Do you agree? Think of your friends. Do they have struggles? And you sympathize with them, so you're kinder to them. But don't you think your foes also have struggles? The people who dislike you, the people who hate you, they're going through their own struggles. They're probably going through more struggles. So sympathizing with that, one becomes more balanced. Sheila and I were sharing about a seeker we know who talks so much, gives so much of her opinion. And I know this seeker more, so I was telling Sheila that she is going through his emotional struggle, so don't take it so personally. And she knew what I was talking about. Third quarter, sarva, which means all, sarvarambha parityagi, the one who renounces, the one who does not depend on what they are doing. If you want to be balanced with the relative and the relationships, the way to do this is to try to feel and act in a way where you have nothing to gain. If you have nothing to gain, you have nothing to lose. That makes one extremely even-minded. When you reflect on all of the relatives and relationships in your life, none of them have provided you what you need, which is peace. Why do we forget that? If you remember that, you won't be in that article being circumstance expecting peace. Then when you're with those A, B's, and C's, there's nothing to gain, so there's nothing to lose. You can be balanced. You can be natural. How many of you have understood this third quarter? Gunatitaha sa uchyate. These are some signs of the one who has no more limits. They are limitless. This is a trigger for chapter 15, which is on limitlessness. These words, atita, stita, these words mean beyond. A synonym for this is cross. That's the word we're using in our Narada Bhakti Sutra course. Another word used is transcend, like in the Yoga Sutras. When you come across these words, it should ideally automatically help us to inquire that there has to be more than what I'm doing and feeling. That's why there's beyond, crossing, transcending. Inquire. Verse 4 on creation, inquire. Verse 25 is also on inquire. If you don't know that there's the beyond, you'll never live for it. In chapter 14, we have identified 4 and 17 to be critical. The main thoughts in both of these verses relates to the theme of chapter 14, which is limits. Creation is limited by qualities, and these qualities cause this and that. I really want you to understand this, especially in reference to sattva or quietness. In our study of the Narada Bhakti Sutra, Rishi Narada recently had shared about what mukhya bhakti is and what gauni bhakti is. In English, gauni bhakti means secondary devotion. And as he's describing this sounds awesome, but it's still secondary. It still has limits, in contrast to mukhya bhakti, that is primary devotion, which is characterized by anuraga, love without I-ness. In other words, love without limits. Sattva is great, but it's not the greatest. Being joyous is great, but being joy is the greatest. Being joyous still means it's caused. Being joy this is uncaused. Is everyone clear? The Bhagavad Gita has zero utility other than enlightenment. The real kalatita. And if you know this, you will relate to the Bhagavad Gita accordingly. You will not use this for temporary therapy. Our next critical verse was verse 25. In verse 25, Shri Krishna is encouraging us to inquire. There is more than criticism. There is more than criticizers. When we are criticized, when we are with a criticizer, it's like all of that sense of moreness disappears, and all we can think about and feel is that criticism and that criticizer. Such a reactionary bhava. When one starts to inquire and feel this more, they start to feel that they are enough. And that's why one stops acting for fulfillment and starts acting out of fulfillment. No article, circumstance, or being should ever make you feel that you are not enough. If that makes you feel you are not enough, you have given that A, B, and C that power, you've taken it away from yourself. Now, naturally, you would think, how does one feel that they are enough? What is the application about this? Here in Cleveland, I am teaching the secrets of meditation. And I'd shared with all of the seekers, as you think, so you develop. Everyone has heard that before. We acknowledge that. But what precedes that is, as you associate, so you think, so you develop. That's why I keep describing Meaningful Mornings as a community. As we associate in terms of meaning, we think about this, we develop into this. When you associate with those who are full, not full of themselves, but full with the self, when we associate with them, they will make us feel the same way. Not acting with the intention to gain is very freeing. When you get to do something where you don't want or need anything, that's really a full experience then. No agenda, no motive,